You turn on the TV and you're watching a show, guy meets a girl at the bar, what's the next scene? They're upstairs in the hotel room in bed together. That's just the normal exposure that our kids receive, is that sexual activity has no relationship whatsoever to marriage. Hi, I'm Scott Phelps, Executive Director of the National Marriage Campaign. We started this work in 2004 with a desire to help young people understand and appreciate the benefits of reserving all sexual activity for marriage. And we found that kids are extremely responsive to that message. It's a message that they don't normally get to hear. Think about this. Of all of the sexual material that our kids are exposed to today on a daily basis through the media, on their phones, on their computer, on their tablets, on their TV screens, it's not just that they're exposed to sexual imagery, and especially at younger and younger ages, but think about this. Of all the sexual material that our kids are exposed to, how much of that communicates to them the clear benefits of sex within the context of a marriage relationship? And the answer is almost none of it. There's no sense in media portrayals of sexuality that sex is reserved for a marriage relationship. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. The typical scene on television, I say this with students as I did this week at a high school. You turn on the TV and you're watching a show, guy meets a girl at the bar, what's the next scene? They're upstairs in the hotel room in bed together. That's just the normal exposure that our kids receive, is that sexual activity has no relationship whatsoever to marriage. And so the point of the National Marriage Campaign is to help young people understand and appreciate the value of reserving all sexual activity for the context of marriage. That is objectively the best choice that they can make. It's the safest, healthiest option available to them. But where do they hear that message? Where do they learn that today? When I do my teacher training workshops around the country to help educators teach these things to kids, I ask that question: where today do kids learn about the benefits of reserving all sexual activity for marriage? And the answer is really nowhere. If they answer at all, they will say church. They get it at church. And I'm like, okay, so do all your kids go to church? Well, no, And if they go to church, is there any guarantee that they're learning these things? I find that many churches don't want to deal with it. It's like, nah. And so the National Marriage Campaign exists to help young people learn that marriage is a good and worthy goal and to see a clear pathway forward to getting there. Now, I started this work back in 2004 after doing a lot of pastoral counseling with families. And I remember one incident in particular. A 16-year-old pregnant girl and her mom came to see me. 16-year-old pregnant girl wants to have an abortion. And there they are in my office, and I'm counseling, and I say to her, I actually know a couple here in our church that are wonderful people. They would love to have a baby, but they're unable to have children. And so they would like to adopt a baby, but I don't know if you know, it's not easy to adopt a baby nowadays. They've been waiting for years. They've done all the background checks, the classes, the paperwork, they've paid the fees, everything. Nothing. They're just waiting and waiting and waiting. And so would you be willing, I'm talking to this 16-year-old pregnant girl, would you be willing, rather than having an abortion, would you be willing to have what's called an open adoption? You carry the baby to term. You could meet the couple beforehand, make sure that you're comfortable with them, make sure that they're the kind of people that you like and that you would want your child to be raised by. And then in an open adoption, you could also arrange to have visits with the baby and go over and see, have playtime, whatever, play with the baby. And so she agreed to do that. And it was such a beautiful, everything worked. It was beautiful. The couple came over, they set up we worked through an agency, set up an open adoption. The couple adopted the babies, everything, yay! A year later, now 17 years old, this girl is back in my office, pregnant again, and this time she said no. This time off to the abortion clinic she went. I remember thinking to myself, really? Really? Am I just gonna sit here behind my desk waiting for people to come to me with their problems? And then I'm gonna spend my life helping people, get their car out of the ditch. Why don't I get up from my desk and go out and talk to young people and help them understand how not to get in the ditch in the first place? And so that's how this all started. I called our local pregnancy care center and I said, hey, listen, here's what's going on. I'm counseling, seeing. And not just that situation, but it seemed like almost every incident in my counseling had to do with sex outside the context of marriage, whether it was a divorce counseling situation or a cohabitation situation or an abortion situation, teen pregnancy, whatever it was, there was a common thread in so much of the counseling I was doing with families, and it had to do with sex outside the context of marriage. So I called our local pregnancy care center and I said, here's the deal. I see this common theme. I'm really interested in saving babies and helping people have healthy families. Could I work for you? And they said, sure, come on over. So we met and we went out to lunch and we talked. And actually, it was it's interesting how this all started. It's kind of a side issue. As we're having lunch, the director of the center mentioned offhandedly that they had a new abstinence education program that they were starting. That they had just started a program to go into high schools in Chicago and talk to teenagers about abstinence until marriage. So I'm like, that wasn't sort of what I was interviewing for in terms of a position with their center to help, families and so forth. But as we were talking, I was like, wait, go back. What did you just say about abstinence until marriage education in the schools? And she said, oh, yeah, we have this. And I was like, could I do that? And she's like, sure, I guess, So we got the director of that program. We got together, talked, and that's how this all started. I was working at this center, and I was working with this team of people. I think there's about 4 or 5 of us. And we started kind of going around to schools, and we were in schools all over the city of Chicago, and kids were eating it up. They were just like, where have you been all my life? And so that was just a beautiful thing. And so that's how we got started with it. After a while, that program came to an end. I went to work with Kathleen Sullivan over at Project Reality. Then she retired, and in 2004, 20 years ago, this is our 20th anniversary, in 2004, we launched the Abstinence and Marriage Education Partnership. And now, after 20 years, we've reached over 2 million teens around the country. After 20 years, we're now going to call it the National Marriage Campaign, because at the end of the day, that is the point of what this is all about. The whole point of abstinence is not anti-sex. We're not anti-sex. We think sex is wonderful in the context of a marriage relationship. So the whole point of everything that we've been doing from the beginning is to lift up the value of marriage for individuals and society. And so going forward, we are thrilled not only to continue to do our work, but to continue to do our work as the National Marriage Campaign. We hope you'll join us. We need all hands on deck. This is a Herculean effort, and we need you to be a part of this great project, the National Marriage Campaign. Join the movement.